Wentz steps up. Here comes the rush. He is going deep, and it is caught. And in for a touchdown, Alshon Jackson.
Give the people what they want.
Hey everyone, welcome to Eagle Eye presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. We have a ton to get to today, Rube. The Eagles just lost 30-16 to the Packers. But a lot of intrigue with this game. We'll get into the whole quarterback situation and defense. Darius Slay didn't have another good game. Doug Pederson insisting on playing guys like Alshon Jeffery. But we have to start with the big story. Michael Jacquet downing that punt at the 1 yard line. I mean, what a play that was.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that kid has come so far, just really in a short time. And, I think when there's a punt inside the 10, man, Michael Jacquet is your guy.
I really appreciate your playing along with my my joke and really let me take it to the limit there. But let's get into the quarterback situation. This was coming. We knew this was coming if Carson kept playing the way he was playing. I'm a little surprised it took this long, to be honest with you. I mean, we were talking at halftime, and I said, if he's not going to bench Carson now, when's he going to do it? The answer was one more series later. Interesting. I mean, this whole dynamic has been interesting and really kind of strange all year. And I wonder if there wasn't a part of Doug Pederson that was hoping Jalen Hurts would go out there and not provide the spark. But he did. I mean, he did. He played well, and all of a sudden this team has a quarterback controversy.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had a good quarterback controversy. Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack. It's got to be a really hard decision. I asked Doug, he didn't answer that, how hard it is to make a decision like this when obviously the franchise is so tied to Carson. And I think getting benched can really have, it can go one of two ways with a quarterback. We saw Donovan, it motivated him so much that he took the Eagles to NFC Championship game in 2008 after getting benched. Similarly, it was at halftime against the Ravens, but same kind of deal. I don't know. I think Doug just got to the point where running Carson out there for another series, I think we're at the point where we all knew nothing was going to change. And I understand Doug wanting to give Carson every opportunity to turn things around. It can't be easy to know when the right time to just finally say enough. I thought there was a good time. When he didn't change quarterbacks at halftime, I was starting to think he wasn't going to do it. So it was a little surprising, the timing. But, yeah, give Carson a chance to come out in the second half and maybe try to change it. But at that point, it was obvious nothing was going to change on its own. And like he said, he wanted to give the offense a spark. And Carson was terrible. And, it's never one thing. I understand the offensive line is not great. I understand the receivers aren't the best in the world. But he's just playing terrible. And people have to understand that. And I can't believe how many people are defending him and saying, oh, he doesn't have time to do this. He's playing awful. He's having one of the worst seasons of any quarterback with his pedigree in history. And it's not all the offensive line. It's not all the play calling. And it's not all the wide receivers. And Jalen Hurts comes in the game and throws, it's like first attempt or second attempt is a 34-yard completion to Jalen Reagor where – it's a longer pass than Carson's completed in his last 4 games. So, yeah, things changed. And if you have a quarterback just playing confident and having some just a little efficiency, it can make everybody around him better. And Jalen Hurts wasn't perfect. I think we all understand that. But he came in and immediately did things that Carson hasn't been doing. And if you don't want to admit that, you're just not opening your eyes. I think it's obvious. And I don't want to talk about the stats. He only threw 12 passes. So, 1 minute you're at 50%, the next year at, 40%, whatever it is. It's about the juice. It's about the spark. It's about the energy. You see the defense start to play, but you just see the whole team kind of just, respond to it. And, whether that can continue, I don't know, but I think you have to certainly find out. All of a sudden, everybody around you looks better. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, and to me, you mentioned the one part of it that was so striking. Jalen Hurts looked like a confident quarterback, and I can't remember Carson looking like that. It's just the confidence of being in the shotgun and then roaming that pocket, looking like you know what you're doing. And Carson's just been – and look, I think a lot of that probably comes from having shaky offensive line and not trusting the linemen, not trusting receivers, and I think it's all gotten in his head. But you watch Carson out there, and it just looks like he has no command. And that's what he used to be so good at, was really navigating the pockets, knowing when to step up, knowing when to escape, and he just has no feel for that right now. And that was really the thing that impressed me about Hurts. And Carson's never going to be able to take off like Jalen Hurts can. He doesn't have that. He never had that. Even before the knee injury, he never had that in his back pocket. So I understand that, Hurts has that ability, and that might be unfair to because he can escape the pocket a little easier. But just seeing that confidence, to me, that was the most striking thing, because I miss watching that Carson Wentz play, and he hasn't shown that really all season. Maybe that first half in the Washington game.
Right. And maybe, there was that one stretch at the end of the first Giants game, kind of got a little something going, maybe at the end of the Ravens game, but they were already down 20. But yeah, you're right. And it has nothing to do with the numbers or the stats. I know he threw an interception, at the end, but it's about just the feel. It's about seeing a guy who has some pocket presence. I thought Carson's pocket presence was as bad today as it's been all year. I mean, he was just standing there. He has no feel for where the pressure's coming. He has no feel for when it's not coming. He's running out of the pocket when there is a pocket. People have to remember, Jalen's played a couple snaps. He'd thrown 3 passes in his career. He's played 33 snaps coming in. He didn't get the first team reps this week. It's a really hard time to come into your first extended NFL playing time, in the third quarter of a game against an 8-3 team at Lambeau Field. It's not the easiest thing. And I thought, considering everything, I liked what I saw. Doug's got a tough call. You can make a case either way. You can say, well, I think it was good for Carson to step back in the second half and watch. It's something he's never done before. I mean, he's never been benched. He's probably never been benched in his life at any level in any team. But he could say, let's go with Carson against the Saints, and that's a tough situation on Carson now because he's looking over his shoulder, even though he won't say so. Or you can say, you know what, Jalen gave us a little bit of something, and let's see what he can do with all the reps this week, and let's see what he can do with the full game. Where I stand. I don't think Carson's going to fix himself. I think we've seen the 2020 Carson. Maybe there'll be a day, new coaching staff or new receivers or new O-line or something, new quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator, play caller. Maybe there'll be a time where Carson Wentz is a Pro Bowl quarterback again. But right now he's not. And I think the more you can learn about Jalen Hurts these next 4 weeks, the better. Not knowing who your quarterback's going to be is a tough place for any team to be. And the more information you have on the guys, on your roster, the better off you are. So I don't see any reason. Also, you're 3-8-1 now, for crying out loud. The Giants have won 4 of their last 6, I think. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of gapped the division for what it is. They're playing better. They're playing well. They went to Seattle, beat the Saints without Daniel Jones playing. And I think it's obvious they're not going to win the division now. So, I mean, they still could mathematically, but I just think Jalen Hurts needs to play. I can't think of a reason not to.
Well, I mean, the easiest for me is we spent all week talking about accountability. I don't know, after watching that game, how you can justify starting Carson Wentz next week. Just look at the production. Just look at those two guys side by side and what they did in that game. I mean, if there's accountability, if there really is accountability, then you have to go with the guy who played better. And it wasn't really close in this game. And Carson Wentz was asked after a game if he thinks it can help him. And this is, Doug's kind of mentioned this before. He's gone back to the Nelson Aguilar thing. He somehow tried to use that with Jordan Mailata this year. But it's something that Doug clearly believes in certain circumstances, that it can help a quarterback to get benched and see another vantage point. Carson Wentz doesn't see it that way. I mean, he was asked about that after the game, and he said, no, I don't think that can help me. it's pretty clear that I think he's very frustrated. But if there's going to be accountability, you can't play him next week. You just can't, right? I mean, how can they possibly justify it?
You can't unless you have a reason to believe that he's going to play better. You can't. And what do you think he's going to do?
I think he's going to start Jalen Hurts.
And I didn't really expect him to say today because, I mean, I'm sure he hasn't had a chance to talk to the two of them. It's got to be a difficult conversation with Carson, but he's got to – that's something you can't just do after the game. Carson, come in my office. It's something you got to do back at the NovaCare. But he's got to decide by Wednesday because that's when they start practicing. I wonder if he'll tell us on Wednesday. He might try to keep it a secret. You know, Doug's big on that competitive advantage thing. But when it was happening, I was thinking he's just going to go back to Carson on Sunday. Saints coming in. But I think you're right. I think Jalen did enough good things to, he's earned it.
Yeah, and look, I'm not trying to go crazy with what Jalen did either. It wasn't like he was incredible. He made some plays. He gave them some juice. And it is important to note that, like, the Eagles were down pretty big when he got in the game. And I think that dictated some of the coverages.
And they've been down a lot when Carson's in the game, and he hasn't completed, 2 30-yard passes. I mean –
That's fair. I'm just looking at this game in particular. I mean, yeah. Carson – they got the lead early, and I'm not trying to say, like, that's a negative. They finally put up points first. But it was a really close game until the second half, and then that's when Jalen was able to get something going. So I don't want to take anything away from him, but I also want to put it in perspective. I think that's important because the numbers weren't great. I mean, the overall offensive numbers were much better with Hurts in there. They averaged 6.3 yards per play as opposed to 3.5 when Carson was in there. I mean, that's pretty different.
Yeah, that is. And you saw him run a couple times. You saw him get out of trouble. He had 2 straight first down runs. And Carson at times can be athletic and can gain yards kind of, straight ahead, but he's not going to run the way Jalen Hurts is. I was intrigued. The 2 passes, the 34-yarder to Rager was a nice throw, and the touchdown to Greg Ward was a real nice throw. That's what I wanted to see. The interception doesn't bother me. He obviously was the pocket broke down, and he was trying to hang in there.
That was a great play by Savage.
Yeah, it was. It doesn't bother me. It's not like Carson just throwing the ball to a guy on the other team. But I want to see more Jalen Hurts. I can't think of a reason not to.
Yeah, and, for the first time, I mean, that game, it was kind of going the way we expected. It was the Eagles are a bad team. They're getting soundly beaten by a team we know is superior. And, that's the worst place for an organization to be. It's just a bad team getting beat by a better team, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of what it felt like watching the first half of that game. It was like, let's just run out the clock because they're not coming back. They're not good enough. At least there was some intrigue in the second half. I mean, your eyes were glued to that TV because you knew Jalen Hurts is on the field and you want to see him. And I want to see more of him. And look, long term, I don't know what it means because they're tied to Carson Wentz. That contract ties them to Carson Wentz. So ultimately, I think they still have to try to resurrect his career here. I don't know how else you can go about it. I mean, I know some people want them to trade him. That's really tough to do. So I think ultimately they have to try to resurrect his career. It's kind of just a big mess. And just because we're in this position now, it doesn't mean that the Hurts pick was a good pick either.
Right.
I mean, and we'll never know the answer to this, but it really makes you wonder how much Hurts's presence has affected Carson Wentz this year. And you can say, well, he should be mentally tough enough for not to bother him. But what if it did? It seems very possible that it did. It
does. And, we've asked Carson about Jalen Hurts a number of times this year, going back to training camp. And every time, it's kind of an awkward thing. He clearly doesn't like talking about him. He's not comfortable talking about him. I can't imagine he likes having him here. He said he respects him as a player. I mean, I know how I felt when they brought you in. I'm covering the Eagles. I'm the Eagles guy, and they brought you in, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? No, I'm kidding. You like to think that he would be mentally tougher than that. You look at Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, they drafted a quarterback that didn't seem to bother him.
No, it seemed to bother him, but he channeled it the right way.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it seemed to bother him, but it didn't affect him, is what I should say. It didn't affect his performance.
Well, positively, maybe.
Maybe. I know you would want somebody to be a competitor to react that way. Hey, they brought this guy in. I'm going to raise my game. They're trying to take my job. I'm going to raise my game. That's how you'd want the guy to respond. That's what Aaron Rodgers did. Obviously, he's more accomplished and a lot older than Carson Wentz, but I definitely think there's something there. I do. I think I don't think there's any question. It's I don't want to say it's in his head, but I think it definitely affected him negatively. Because what else could it be?
And I don't think that's like it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that's the reason. Exactly, and I think that's important whenever we talk about Carson or really just the offense or the team. I mean, it's not one thing with any of this, but I don't think it's unrealistic to think that Hurts' presence has affected him in some sort of way. And to me, it just feels like the Eagles kind of invited all this when they drafted a quarterback in the second round. I mean, because if Nate Sudfeld's the backup, no one's calling for Nate Sudfeld to start. Like, even if they go to Nate Sudfeld in this game, it's not like, oh, Suddy better get to start next week. That's not happening.
Right.
They've invited this in, and we'll never know. Like, we'll never truly know because Carson's never going to admit it. But, yeah, I think there's something to it.
I think the most honest answer he got was the night of the draft. I think Howie, or maybe it was the day after. It must have been the day after because Howie said, yeah, I had a conversation. I called Carson and told him we were going to take a quarterback. And I think – I forget his exact words, but he was like he was not thrilled or something like that. He didn't understand or he was not thrilled, something along those lines. And then by the next day he had backed off that. It was like we're not going to go there anymore. But I don't think there's any question. It's a factor and maybe one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I mean, they could have drafted a player to help them win games this year, and instead they drafted a guy that Carson might be looking at as a guy coming for his job, which Jalen should be. I mean, that should be his goal.
Excuse me.
What did you make of Hurts' answer to my question? I thought it was interesting. I asked him, how he handled the situation coming to a city where there was already an established quarterback. And it was interesting because he brought up all the adversity he faced in college and kind of made it seem like it was adversity here for him in Philly, I guess just not being the starter. But it was a little eye-opening to me.
That's how I interpreted it. He said, God has done so many things throughout my life. He's brought me so many places, and he's put me in so many situations. I always told myself it's not something that you're stuck in. It's something you're going through. And whether it be the different adversity I experienced in college or coming to Philadelphia, it's a test of faith and patience. He's pretty clearly saying coming to Philadelphia was a test of, was adversity and a test to him. I think he's in a difficult position. And I think the apparent lack of a relationship between the two of them could certainly be a product of that. Carson's older than him. They come from obviously different backgrounds. They don't have anything in common except they're both quarterbacks for the Eagles. The whole COVID thing has kind of made meetings virtual, and they haven't had a chance to bond. And there's definitely an awkwardness there. I was really surprised at his answer. I was surprised to hear him refer to being an Eagle as adversity. And it's certainly something that we can follow up next time we get a chance to talk to him. But I was really surprised to hear that.
Yeah. And It's something we've talked about
I had
before.
that quote right in front of me, ready to go.
It was good. It's something we've kind of talked about before, though, because them drafting him in the second round, like, of course he was happy to get drafted. Being a second rounder is a relatively high pick, but it never seemed like a great situation for him. I mean, he was coming to a team like, and this is before we knew Carson was going to struggle to this level, but he was coming to a team where there was really not a clear path for him to even find playing time. And it kind of felt unfair to him. And then, on top of it, if there is some iciness in the building, the whole thing seemed unfair to him. And it seems like he's handled it fairly well.
Yeah, I think that's probably what he meant. If you're a rookie, you want to come to a place to be able to compete for the job in training camp and, have a fair shot at it. And this is a guy who was a Heisman runner-up, and he's used to, whether he's at Alabama or Oklahoma, is used to playing and used to winning, other than when Tua was ahead of him. So,
they brought him into the season as the third stringer.
Yeah.
He was inactive in week 1.
In the opener, yeah. So I think he has – it's weird talking to him because he just – yeah, and not just tonight. And we've only talked to him, I think, 3 times since he's been here, I believe. He's never really seemed at ease. And maybe that's just talking to us. I don't know how much – I assume there's a lot of media covering Oklahoma football, Alabama football. But he just never seemed to really kind of feel at home here. Maybe that's a reach, but I never sensed that this is the place he wanted to be. And I guess that's what he was talking about.
Yeah. It's fascinating, though, because this is, there's 4 games left. How would you handle this if you're Doug? Are you going on a game-by-game basis? Or are you saying Hurts is our starter for the rest of the season?
It's a great question. That's not an easy thing to do. By the way, how about I'm going to go off topic real quick. Somebody asked Carson a question, and then he said, that's a great question. He said, I don't know what you mean. I thought it gave a real good glimpse to where he is mentally right now. He's like, that's a great question. He's like, I'm not really sure what you mean. Like, if you don't know what the question means, how could it be a great question? You remember that? Did you catch that?
I did catch that.
Anyway, I forget whose question it was, but if I'm Doug, I think you need to say Jalen's our quarterback. Look, we have 4 games left. We're 3-8-1. It hasn't gone the way we hoped for Carson. It doesn't mean he's never going to be our starter again, but we're going to give Jalen an opportunity. Now, if it goes really bad, if he's terrible, doesn't play well against the Saints, comes out against Arizona and is playing terrible, do you go back to Carson? Maybe. If it gets to the point where you don't even think the reps are helping Jalen Hurts, if he's not really improving, if it's that bad, which it's always a possibility. But other than that, I really don't see a reason to play Carson Wentz again this year.
Really? I actually disagree. I think I'd go on a game-by-game basis because I just don't know if I want to close the door on Carson. I want to keep him mentally invested because I still think they need to figure out a way to get Carson to be their quarterback because, look, if Jalen Hurts plays really well down the stretch in these last 4 games to the point where you're like, well, he's got to be our quarterback, then that's a different story. I wouldn't say if one guy's clearly better, you don't take him off the field, but they can't have Carson Wentz be their backup next year, can they?
Well, I think whatever happens this year, Carson's going to be the number 1 when next year starts. Unless, Jalen Hurts plays like at a Pat Mahomes level or Aaron Rodgers level, I don't see that happening. It's an interesting situation. And maybe that's a reason for Doug to go back to Carson on Sunday because just thinking we can't afford to have Jalen Hurts play really well these next 4 games and put us in that situation. It's like you said, it's a mess. And there's no easy answers. Right now, I just feel like Jalen Hurts, if you want to just whittle it down to who gives this team the best chance to win games on Sunday, I think it's Jalen Hurts right now. That's how bad Carson has been. So unless you're thinking ahead to next year, and I don't want to, I don't want to open the door to Hurts playing so well that we don't have a choice but to play Jalen Hurts when next year starts. I think you got to go. I think you got to just say Jalen's our guy.
I think I'd go week to week. I think I'd leave it a little bit more open-ended.
Any team wants to do is go week to week with your quarterback.
I get it, but this year to me is lost anyway. I don't think you want to go week to week with your quarterback if there's something to play for. But there isn't here.
That's a tough position to put Carson and Jalen in.
Yeah, no, it is. And I don't think there's an easy answer here. And that's the problem. That's why it's such a mess. I mean, even if you say Jalen's our quarterback for the rest of the year, you're still a big problem. You have a $128 million quarterback not playing, and that extension hasn't even kicked in yet, right?
Crazy.
I mean, it's a mess. So I think you'd want to leave yourself the possibility where if Jalen Hurts really struggles, maybe you try to get Carson Wentz back out there and see if he can't, see if this, even though he doesn't think the step back will help him, maybe it will. I think there is still some validity to that idea, and I'd want to leave that on the table.
Yeah, I think Hurts should at least play the Saints game, the whole Saints game.
I think that's fair, and I think he deserves a week of preparation too, because it's unfair for him to kind of get thrust out there again.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a tough place to be. I was trying to find the last time a rookie quarterback came in like that in the middle of a game, and it's really, obviously Carson played as a rookie, but to start as a backup and it's probably, Donovan played a little bit but that was like every game he played a couple series, then Pederson would go back in. And Coy Detmer replaced Bobby Hoying as a rookie one game. I think in Green Bay, actually, in 97, 98, I don't know. But
there's never been this.
There's never been anything like this. It's been the craziest year, and there's no seamless, easy way. I'm really curious to see what Doug does and what he tells us and how he proceeds.
Yeah, and we have to remember, this is his job on the line too. I think that's fair to say. The way he handles this might very well determine his future here as the head coach.
And I think there might be a sense with Doug that, if Hurts plays well, then it looks like I wasn't the problem. And then it looks like Carson was the problem. So that's an added dimension to it, and if Hurts struggles, then it's like, no quarterback can play well under Doug in this offense. I think just the little snippet we saw from Jalen, kind of was a little bit damning for Carson. And again, I'm not under any illusions that Jalen Hurts came in and lit it up, but just to get the ball down the field a couple times, get a couple first downs, right? Make some plays with his legs. Just show some life. He just brought some life just by being out there. And people on Twitter are denying it, which is blowing my mind. It's like, well, he got sacked. He threw an interception. All you had to do is open your eyes and watch, and it was a different energy on the field for those series.
Yeah, and I was kind of joking that when Jalen Reagor returned that punt, Carson had to be on the sideline like, are you kidding me? Where was that?
And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts playing quarterback, had anything to do with that, but I do think that a quarterback change can spark an entire team. And Jalen Mills told me he didn't even know there was a change, which I don't believe for a second. I think it just – now I don't know how sustainable that is, but, sometimes it can bring some juice.
Yeah, and I think it also speaks to the accountability. Like, whoa, Carson just got benched. I think there's something to that.
Yeah. Hey, 'tis the season to thrill at the Nissan year-end sales event. Get in and get out and experience the most riveting ride of the year in a brand new Nissan. These savings on Nissan's lineup are sure to raise your pulse.
Eagles defense gave up 30 points. It's a good Packers team. Maybe the league MVP, Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, throws for 295, 3 touchdowns. We knew this was going to be a tough game. What'd you make of the defense?
I thought they did some good things. That the long run at the end that's just something that can't happen. And we've seen that a couple of times. We saw that in the Browns game. They'd stopped the run, and then they just, it's just that one play.
And Doug showed faith in them too by punting.
Yeah.
And then it burned them.
Yeah, it did. The Packers averaged 34. They scored 30. Look, that team is capable of putting up 50 on you. They didn't get the pressure I thought they'd get. Rodgers gets rid of it quick. Their O-line's really good. Tough day for Slay. I don't know how much the calf was bothering him.
Then he hurt his knee.
It's 2 games in a row. He's faced 2 of the best guys in the league, but he hasn't been. If you're an elite cornerback, you make some plays there, and he hasn't made them.
Yeah, and it's not black and white with Slay because I think he's had a pretty good season.
Yeah.
Overall. The last 2 weeks haven't been good enough. I think he'd admit that. It's tough today because I'm not sure how much the injury affected him. It looked like it might have, especially on the play where Adams kind of dragged him into the end zone. It looked like he didn't have any strength and power in his lower half. But,
face mask had his face mask.
He did. It's not good enough. But, it was funny. After Adams beat him for the touchdown on 4th down, a lot of people were kind of upset with him. But he just made the play on 3rd down. And, for that one play, I'm not going to kill him. It's one-on-one against maybe the best receiver in the league, a perfect pass from a Hall of Fame quarterback. Sometimes, as much as I hate to say that stupid cliche, the other guy gets paid, they do. And Devontae Adams is a really good player. But Slay's allowed to make a play, too. He's had tight coverage all year. At a certain point, he's allowed to bat the ball away. He's allowed to come up with an interception. And those plays haven't been there. He's called big play Slay. We haven't seen many big plays. We've seen tight coverage Slay get beat by a little bit.
Yeah. He's just been not quite good enough. I think when you play a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers and face a team like the Packers, as a defense, you ask yourself, did we keep the team in the game? And they did that. It wasn't it was a C- effort. I would give a C or C-. They didn't completely break down, but that last touchdown was a 70-some-odd yards. If it wasn't for that one, it's a one-possession game, but that was a backbreaker. Can't let that happen.
Linebacker play was poor.
Yeah.
I thought Alex Singleton had his worst game since he's been a starter.
That's fair.
Rodney had 2 missed tackles on that long run somehow. He got in position twice and couldn't bring him down.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I thought he had an okay game, I think.
Yeah.
Devontae Maddox is overmatched.
Yeah, he made one nice play there.
I don't even think he got his hand on it. It looked nice.
It looked like he got his hand in there. Maybe not. They just don't have players. They just don't have talent on defense. I think Jim Schwartz gets the most out of what they have. They just don't have a lot.
Hargrave had a sack.
Early. They always get that early sack, and that was it. There was another sack when Rodgers fell down, but that was the only real sack. And, this D-line just isn't what you think they should be.
Yeah, that's a good offensive line too.
They are.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny because now we're into the part of the defense where we're going, this is kind of what they are. At least on offense, there was some intrigue with Hurts out there. The defense is this is what they are. They have a few good players up front. Their linebackers aren't very good.
BG's got 4 games without a sack now after 7 in the first 8 games.
He was around Rodgers on one of them. They bring him down.
Yeah. One more game before the Pro Bowl voting. It was right. It seemed like it was right there for him a couple of weeks ago. And hopefully he finishes strong. I think we all want to see him go to the Pro Bowl, or not go to the Pro Bowl, but be a Pro Bowler.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for him now. There's really, this. I don't know if this defense really deserves to have a Pro Bowler. Fletch might go on reputation. He's been okay. I don't see Fletch wrecking stuff like he's been okay.
Yeah.
Makes a big player too every game, but I don't know if he's one of the best D tackles in the league anymore.
Malik Jackson's kind of tailed off from his hot start.
Yeah.
I mean, he was off. Remember how good he was earlier in the year?
Yeah, there was a little stretch that he was.
Yeah.
Well, Nick Gary might be coming back soon, so.
That'll get everyone excited. The last thing I want to talk about in this segment here was Alshon Jeffery. Why is he playing, Rube?
And it's not even that. You know what really bothered me? After the offensive pass interference, he's laughing. He's out there laughing. And that really bugged me. You know what? You're stealing money. You're not making plays. You're taking reps away from the young guys. And you're just out there laughing. Your team's in the process of going 0-4 with you in uniform this year. I don't know. It just bothered me. But, yeah, and it's not just Alshon. It's JP.
They should shut JP down. He left this game with the toe injury. Shut him down.
Shut him down, please, for the love of God. It might have been the last game of his career. Probably was.
Yeah.
But who else? I don't know. Yeah. I expect him.
I mean, there was a period in this game where Jordan Howard is taking –
Well, he's another one, yeah.
He's not an old guy. He's 26, but he's old in football years, and he's taking carries away from Miles Sanders. Then you have we all love Vinny Curry, but he's the fourth defensive end, Jannard Avery, who we still don't know what he is inactive. I mean, and look, we all kind of understand J-Jaw's not any good, but he's inactive. I'd rather see J-Jaw than Alshon.
Any day of the week. He's having a better year.
It's true.
That's what it's
true.
He's got 2 for 45, and Alshon's got 3 for 15. It's crazy. I don't want to see any of those guys again. And Jordan Howard, I mean, this is typical Doug Pederson. Well, he had a big game against the Packers last year, so yeah, we'll try him out and see if he has a big game. And then he has 4 carries, and he was okay. He had an 11-yard run in there, but I mean, you're not going to win the game with Jordan Howard. And plus, he had a big game last year early before Miles had really established himself, what kind of player he was. Miles had 5 carries on the first drive and 5 the rest of the game. He didn't have any the rest of the first half. I mean, it's criminal what they're doing to Miles. And I know he's not getting many yards when he's out there, but he's not getting any opportunities. As a running back, every running back will tell you, the more you play, the more you get a feel for what the defense is doing, the more you get into a rhythm, the more you understand how they're trying to defend you. And, I go back to Nick Chubb, or even today. I mean, you just keep giving a good back the ball. He's going to bust one. And teams do it to the Eagles, but the Eagles never have a chance to do it to anyone because they give up on their running backs. It's awful. I feel bad for Miles Sanders because, we used to give Andy grief because he would give Brian Westbrook like 13, 14, 15 carries a game. We're like, how come you're only giving him 15 carries a game? This kid's getting like the last 2 games or last 3 games. I think he has, 9, 6, and 10? I mean, it's crazy. He's like their best player. He never plays.
It is amazing. And it was actually – was it Jim Nantz or Tony Romo today said they're pretty good at running the football, but they don't do a lot of it, which is true.
Yeah, it was Tony. It was a good line. He's really good, by the way.
Yeah, it was nice to see the Eagles get beat on a nationally televised game so the rest of the country can see it.
Yeah, I didn't have to listen to Jonathan Vilma for once, but although I did earlier in the day. But anyway, and Doug, after the game, once again, Doug said, I could have run the ball more. Or he might have said it at halftime to the sideline reporter. I'm not. So what is he looking at? What's he doing? You're the coach. If you want to run miles more, run miles more. Tell us that.
Hindsight's 20/20.
I think he's lost his mind. Hey, if you're a football fan, you need to check out the new Sunday Night 7 on the NBC Sports Predictor app. There's really no reason not to play. It's totally free, and it's got $2 million in guaranteed cash prizes with $100,000 up for grabs every week. Just make 7 predictions about what will happen on Sunday Night Football for a chance to win some serious money. Download the NBC Sports Predictor app or head to NBCSports.com/predictor to make your Sunday Night 7 picks.
Maybe the best bit of news from Sunday is that the Giants beat Seattle 17-12. So another step toward the Eagles being out of this stupid division race and maybe stopping them from – I mean, maybe that'll stop them from using – because they've been in this weird kind of purgatory for the last month where it's like, yeah, we suck, but we can win the division, so we got to keep trying to win the division. I'm at the point now where it's like, I don't want to hear about the division anymore. Maybe you'll back your way into it, but that's like the farthest thing from my mind. Yeah,
I don't think they might not win another game this year. I mean, I don't know. I might pick them to beat the Saints, actually. I think if Hurts starts, I'm going to pick them to beat the Saints. Hurts versus Taysom Hill. No, it might be Breeze. Breeze might be back.
He's eligible, but we don't know if he'll be ready.
Yeah, we don't know. But either way, I think Taysom Hill threw for 453 yards today. It's just crazy. But they're not winning the division. They're going to get a hell of a draft pick. I wonder who'd be picking it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Interesting stuff, though, with that draft pick. It looked like the Jets were about to win a game today, and then they jetsed a little bit, and they lost that game.
You just use jets as a verb.
They jetsed. I mean, that's the only way to say it. Jaguars looked like they had a chance to win a game. Overtime, they lost to the Vikings. So 1 and 2, it looked like they were trying to give up their spots today, and that didn't happen. And then the Bengals, I believe they lost today, right?
Yeah.
Who'd they play? Did they lose today?
I think so.
Yeah, they lost to the Dolphins. So they're still in the 3rd spot. Dallas doesn't play until Tuesday. The Chargers got smoked by the Patriots today, right?
And I think those are the teams the Eagles are kind of competing with: Cowboys, Chargers, because I mean the Bengals, Jets, and Jacksonville, they're not catching them. I think
the Bengals are kind of in play. They're a little far to reach, but yeah, I mean Dallas and the Chargers are right there.
Yeah, I mean the Bengals only have one fewer win than they do, and the same number of ties. So it's easy to figure that out. I mean, I think they're going to probably end up picking. If they pick 4th, 5th, or 6th, they're going to – well, I can't say they're going to get a really good player. They're going to have an opportunity to get a really good player.
Yeah.
And who knows who'll be making that pick, but it's going to be fascinating.
I never thought in Week 13 I'd be looking at the teams ahead of them in the draft order more closely than the teams in the division.
Strange year.
It really is. All right, DPC, what do you got?
I don't have a whole lot here. Goddard had another good game. Carson had one completion of note. Defender fell down. Safety fell down. And Goddard caught a 41-yarder or something. So he's putting up good numbers, I guess.
And he underthrew him, Carson.
Yeah.
On the...
But, yeah.
He hits him in stride. It's a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. But I wasn't putting Carson in Dave's spots. I was putting Goddard in.
Okay.
Rager had a nice catch down the field, and obviously we saw just how I think he showed all of his attributes on the punt return. Speed, power, elusiveness. It was a nice return. He looked strong. He looked fast. So I'll go Jalen Rager in, and I'll put Jalen Hurts in there too. I saw enough that I feel positive about him, even though the numbers might not be overwhelming. I'll throw those guys in there in Dave's positivity corner.
Yeah, I really like Rager today. I think that could do a lot for his confidence. Getting in the end zone, finally making a play down the field. It's been since week 1 we haven't seen him catch a deep ball.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was really good.
That was his first catch over 20 yards since opening day.
Yeah, there wasn't much else good.
Greg Ward had a nice touchdown.
Yeah, he did. He's an okay player.
Is that the longest catch of his career, 32 yards? I think he had a 29-yarder earlier this year.
I'm not sure. I don't know. There wasn't much, honestly. But, at least there was some intrigue in that second half. Because like I said, watching that game, it felt like it's a bad team getting beat by a good team. And
Rube's negativity corner real quick?
Sure.
I'm not really sure that John Hightower is ever going to be a player. I know he had two deep balls early in the year. He's just so soft.
I'd like to see him out there instead of Alshon.
Well, that's true, too. I'd rather see J-Jaw than either one of them.
I'd rather see Quez. I'd rather see Deontay Burnett. I'd rather see who else they got.
Rob Davis. Well, he's
Rob Davis. Bring Rob Davis back. Marcus Wheaton available.
Kamar Aiken.
Get Kamar Aiken out here. Literally anyone else.
How about Reuben Randall?
All right.
Mike Wallace.
I'll draw the line at Reuben Randall.
Steve Smith, the other Steve Smith, the bad Steve Smith. How he was like, Steve Smith, yeah, we'll sign him. Oh, he finds out like 3 weeks later, oh, it's the wrong Steve Smith.
Imagine going through your whole life being the other you know? No, I'm the other one.
Yeah. The other – you're not that Steve Smith.
Yeah.
He did catch 100 balls one year.
He had a great year. He had a Pro Bowl season.
Came here, couldn't catch a thing.
Hey, he was all gone.
That's all I got, Dave. It's going to be an interesting week.
It will be an interesting week, and we'll be back with you guys soon enough talking about the quarterback situation. We'll find out if we get some answers before the next pod. Hopefully we do. If you enjoy the podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We mentioned on the last one, I've had a few more people send me their Spotify year-end thing. We always appreciate that. That's cool to see. For Rube, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you guys soon.